Welcome to Eye on South Asia. Today we have a guest, Ambassador Hardeep Singh Puri. He's the ambassador of India to the United Nations. Welcome to the program. My first question is, what made you choose the Indian Foreign Services?
Well, it wasn't a case of being spoiled for choice. When I joined the Foreign Service nearly 39 years ago, the Indian economy had very limited prospects to offer for a young entrant into the job market. The government as an employer, a few private sector companies and a few banks, the teaching profession. And I come from a family of civil servants, and I've always wanted to join the Foreign Service. And in retrospect, I think that's a wise decision I took. So there was really no choice. The issue was whether I would qualify for the Foreign Service. And I did, and I'm happy to have spent many productive years in the service of the country in India and in different postings. And it is with a sense of satisfaction that I'm nearing the end of that 39-year-old innings.
As you said, you had 39 years of...
I'm into the 39
You're into 39 years.
Yeah.
What was the most memorable moment, if you could share with us?
You know, it's very difficult to pick and choose from a long career. My postings have been in very diverse places. I started as a language trainee in Japan, spent 9 months or so to learn the language, then I worked in the mission. I've served after that in Geneva in a multilateral setting, in Sri Lanka, in Colombo, which were momentous years, the 1987 India-Sri Lanka peace agreement. I worked as Deputy High Commissioner in London, as Ambassador to Brazil and in New York. So each of these assignments provides the possibility of for exciting work, challenges, and some of them not entirely easy. So I would say that altogether these have all been, in their own way, all these assignments have offered moments of excitement. And I would find it very difficult to pick and choose any one event over the others. Negotiating with the LTT in Sri Lanka, trying to transform the nature of Indo-Brazil relations, which at one point of time represented a $200 million bilateral relationship. We are now looking at a trade target of $15 billion. Serving on the Security Council certainly provides a high for any representative from any country. To have presided over the Security Council in August 2011, again in November 2012. So all these in their own limited way, provide an immense amount of satisfaction, involve hard work. But at the end of the day, one feels that one has been very privileged to have been given these opportunities.
What was the working relations with members such as China, Pakistan, and the US?
Excellent, just excellent. When you serve on the Security Council, a certain degree of bonding takes place between the members. It's a small group, 15 members, 5 permanent members and 10 elected members. And invariably when you work long hours, late into the evening, on holidays, when you go on Security Council missions, you develop personal relationships. And both with Pao Dong from China, with Ali Churkin of Russia, and Hussein Haroon, who was the Pakistani PR, and now with Masood Khan, we've had excellent relations.
India, what was the pressing agenda under your presidency? Do you see any peaceful solution to a Syrian crisis, which is spilling over the region, and it is getting volatile?
Well, we had the challenging task of dealing with the Syrian crisis both during our first presidency in August 2011 and again during our presidency in November 2012. When I can tell you, we were extremely fortunate and we worked very hard to obtain this outcome. We were able to get the first unanimous pronouncement of the Security Council in the form of a presidential statement on Syria on 3rd August 2011. If you contrast that with the attempts of others, which attracted 3 double vetoes by Russia and China, and you see the difference. What we were able to achieve in that presidential statement, which was unanimously accepted, was the acknowledgement that for peace to return to Syria, both sides, that is the government and the armed opposition, needed to walk back from the violence, enter into a political dialogue, and resolve the problems of Syria through negotiation. And that was about it. After that, the problems it became more and more confrontational within the Security Council. Your question on whether there is hope for peace in Syria, I would say that with every passing day, the hopes are receding. Mr. Kofi Annan as the Joint Special Envoy first, and Mr. Lagdir Brahimi now he's discovering the perils of the enormous challenge of trying to wage peace in Syria. And unless both sides walk back from the violence, and I mean the government and the armed opposition, it is not going to work. There is clear evidence that the armed opposition also includes elements which can only be described as terrorists, elements of Al-Qaeda, which is not to excuse the barbaric use of force which the government is using against its own people, who are also participating in the struggle. So I would say that unless there is a realization on both sides that an outcome achieved through military campaign can only become more problematic for Syria. And we have barely recovered from the problems that we witnessed in Libya, where the proliferation of arms after Gaddafi's fall has now completely disturbed the peace in Mali and has also upset the balance in some of the other countries in the region. So I think there has to be a realization that military force should be the means of last resort. But most important, a surreptitious arming of rebels and for them to take on a organized state structure is playing with fire. And I just made a statement in the Security Council on terrorism, and I said there, I recall the old saying, those who live by the sword shall also perish by it. If you play with fire, you'll get singed.
You also chaired the Counter-Terrorism Committee in the Security Council. Do you think Pakistan is doing enough? Do you think you're getting full support from Pakistan on this effort?
Well, let me just say that I think our proudest moment in the Security Council was to have achieved on the 10th anniversary of Resolution 1373, which was on 26 September 2011. We got in a special meeting and in the preparatory process leading on to that, endorsement of what is called a zero tolerance approach on counterterrorism. And that is now the norm. That is the benchmark in counterterrorism discussions. Zero tolerance. Should be no tolerance for acts of terror, no matter what the cause or the ideological justification provided. And I think all countries have to measure up to that standard. The Security Council's normative framework, which Resolution 1373 has created, makes that abundantly clear. And all I can say is that the Pakistani response always has been that they believe that they are complying with it, but they say that they are themselves victims. And well, I don't want to comment on that. As I said, there is clear evidence now that if you play with fire, then you get singed with it. And those who live by the sword ultimately perish by it. So, and you see the kind of problem Pakistan itself is beginning to face. So this is a hydra-headed monster, terrorism. So unless you check the vipers which operate in your backyard, those vipers will come to bite you. So all I can say is to all countries in the region, I think we have to take meaningful steps, concrete steps, to ensure that there is no support given to terrorism directly or indirectly. That all these safe havens which have been developed, which have been established, the infrastructure of terrorism which exists, the whole world knows it exists, it has to be dismantled.